So, I think we are on air. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our webinar with the topic of strengthening collaboration in the era of Sustainable Development Goals. This is a practitioner session with the Dialogic Change Model, and I would like to introduce my colleague Maryana Zaviyska.
Good morning, everyone.
Yeah, she's an independent facilitator and consultant, and I'm very happy to announce that she is the first CLI Associate in the Ukraine, and we are sitting in Kiev.
Hello once again.
And of course, I would like to introduce you my colleague Martin Fielko, who is sitting in Potsdam currently, and he is responsible for the educational programs and currently responsible for technical issues. Martin, hi.
Hi, yes, I'm here in Potsdam, and I can say that from technical point of view, we can hear you well. So I hope the other participants may type in if they can hear you well as well. So yeah, for all the others, just enjoy the webinar with Maryana and Alina, and I think I will hand it back over to you. And if there are any questions coming up, just type them in the chat and I will collect them and we will have a Q&A session in the end then. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Bye. Yes, exactly. So if you have any questions, just type them into the chat and we will go through the questions in the questions and answer session after our webinar and after the examples. And so this is actually also the agenda. We are going through the Dialogic Change Model. This is our methodology, our core methodology here in this webinar. And we will then also visualize or explain it more in detail through our examples in practice, in reality, so that you have a better understanding what we are talking about actually. So what is Collective Leadership Institute actually doing? We are an independent and non-profit organization based in Potsdam in Germany and also in Cape Town in South Africa. And we started with our work in 2005. So we already have some experience and some years. And our vision is to empower future-oriented people to lead collectively towards a sustainable future. And the most important for us is the mission is to support the stakeholders across sectors to collectively create and realize solutions for sustainability challenges. And these challenges are current state of the world. It's really sad to say, but we see the impact of climate change, drought. We see the impact on resources who are very, very decreased and coming up through war. People need to leave their countries, and to overcome these challenges, the UN adopted and created the Sustainable Development Goals in fall 2015. And there are 17 Sustainable Development Goals with 169 sub-goals. So I hope everybody knows all the sub-goals. No, it's of course not necessary, but yeah, so these global goals are across a diversity of sectors. And the most important, what is really nice to acknowledge, it's that these goals are for the whole world. It's not only created for parts of the world, but for the whole world, and everybody needs to go into the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. Another point of view was created from the Stockholm Resilience Center, and they assorted the Sustainable Development Goals in a bit different way, so that you see at the heart of all SDGs is the SDG Goal 17. It's on top there, you can see it. And it's about partnership and partnering with stakeholders across sectors, because this is the core, and you can then gather around all the other SDGs and create implementation steps to implement this SDGs in further steps. And what is collective leadership for sustainability about? It's about people meeting people. As you see in this picture, there are a lot of different people and who all have an intrinsic motivation to go into a sustainable future and who really want to work with other people to reach these goals step by step. And people are core, and sustainability is the agency of diversity of all people, as you see in the next slide coming up. So as you see, all the people have a different point of view of sustainability, and it's really important to gather all these point of views and the perspectives together, and to increase the capacity to lead these people into a sustainable future. And we want to talk about case examples for the practitioners session, so that you really have an understanding how we are implementing this in reality. And I'm going to talk about an example from Ukraine, and Maryana is also talking about Ukraine because we are currently sitting in Kiev. My example is about the vocational integration of IDPs, so internally displaced peoples in Ukraine, focusing on supporting for innovative multi-stakeholder projects. A very long and technical term, but it basically means that the project focuses on creating an innovative multi-stakeholder partnership network with people from the private sector, from the public sector, and the civil society, to help increase the employability of people who suffered from the conflict in the eastern part of Ukraine.
And I will bring a project, an example to this webinar about a project in Ukraine focused on development of national framework curriculum for civic education for young people. This project was initiated by the Ministry for Youth in Ukraine and UNDP, United Nations Development Program. Mainly it was aimed to bring all relevant stakeholders into one room, stakeholders that are related to youth development policy, non-formal education, and civic education, and jointly to think about what competences are needed for modern Ukrainian youth to be more integrated into society, and jointly develop a new training curriculum.
We are going directly into the Dialogic Change Model, the core methodology at this webinar. And the Dialogic Change Model is a process methodology. This means that it helps you to design, to implement, and to realize, together with different stakeholders, sustainable solutions for your specific challenge, for your specific initiative which you're facing. And it's also about bringing people around one table to really keep them there and create a common understanding of the challenge, so that people really understand or develop solutions from different perspectives, that it really becomes sustainable. And I want to show you an example of how it looks like in practice, in a real life example. It looks a bit confusing maybe in the first moment. This is the process design or process architecture of the project in Ukraine I'm currently working in. You see, this is about improving the employability of internally displaced people in eastern part of Ukraine. And this green bubbles you see there, these are the interventions of my colleague and me of the Collective Leadership Institute in Ukraine. And it means that we had the possibilities to meet people at their local area, and to really understand what are the circumstances there, and to really get a feeling of their challenges, because it's only possible through a personal relationship. Of course, we can do some desk research, and we did, but this is not a real understanding and not a full full understanding of the circumstances and the worries people have at this moment. So the Dialogic Change Model is about 4 phases, and the first phase is about exploring and engaging. The second phase is about building and formalizing. Third phase is about implementing and evaluating. And the fourth phase is about developing further, replicating, or institutionalization. And it's on purpose a spiral, which you can see here. It's on purpose a spiral because it means that it's an iterative learning process all the time, and you need to create a very, very strong first phase to build upon with the other phases. So you really need to get a strong phase one with exploring, engaging, creating an understanding of your circumstances, your area you're working in, and also working with the stakeholders and creating resonance with these people. And then if you have the feeling that this phase is really strong enough, then you can build upon it first, phase two, phase three, and phase four, and then starting from the beginning or creating institutionalization. And the first phase, as I said, is about exploring and engaging. And this means it's about creating resonance. It's about understanding the context and building a container for change. Creating resonance means that you need to get in conversation, in real life contact to the people. You really need to talk to people and to really bring ideas up so that you can get a resonance testing, for example, like if people understand what you're talking about, and if they maybe want to build upon this idea you explain to them. And you really need to understand the context. It means not only your understanding, but also understanding the point of view from different perspectives and talk to other stakeholders and understand how they see their situation, their circumstances. And it means that through this understanding and through this trust building in this process, you have the ability to build a strong container for change. This is, I can explain it in different words, a core group who really have a common understanding of the challenges you're facing or all together facing. And this core group is working together very strongly, has a very strong relationship and very strong trust relationship. And then you have a container which can then build upon and widen up. And the principles of phase one are building trust and relationship, as I just said. Get the system into a conversation with itself. For example, you see at the bottom a picture where you create a room, where you create a container, a room, where you can get in conversation with each other, where people can exchange and also express their thoughts, their worries, and the things they carry about. And this is very important because this is a moment where you create love for each other. Actually, it's all about love, so that you really understand why do people care about this and why do I care about that, and maybe we even have the same reasons and just worry about something, about the future generations. And if you have to build up the strong relationship and the strong trust relationship, you can create a strong container. Oh, I'm sorry, I was too fast. So the example here I would like to bring is the engagement mission we did last year in October and November in 2017 to create this understanding. Because, as I said, we did a lot of research and we wanted to create a workshop series where people really get the capacity to get in conversation with their system, with their ministries, with their public and private and civil society sector institutions, where they have the chance to express themselves and really to express their love for each other, for their nation, and also for the future generation. And that's why we did an engagement mission, and we were in Ukraine, in the eastern part of Ukraine, for 2.5 weeks, and we had the chance to get in conversation with the first contacts, for example, with GIZ partner, who are already working in Ukraine, in eastern part of Ukraine, and who already established a lot of contacts with people who are already working in the IDP context, in the conflict context. And through this, we had the possibility to reach out much further in the eastern region and to talk really to people who are suffering and who are living in the eastern part of Ukraine, who really know the situation and who were able to give us a full picture. And this is, we did this in 2.5 weeks. We spoke to approximately 170 people. And afterwards, we really had maybe not even full, but a very broad understanding of what is actually going on there, and where can we start to work, and how can we implement all these points of view, and how can we involve all these people who really want to change something.
And also the phase 2 in this dialogic change model can be not so intense as it was in a vocational education project, where when Alina has had to travel during 1.5 week through almost, I think, 6 regions of Ukraine. In the project that I am bringing in, the civic education curricula development was a little bit more relaxed in these terms. In this project, we had pretty much preset list of stakeholders that need to be engaged into the development of the new curricula, mostly identified by the Ministry for Youth in Ukraine. However, still we had have to had probably 40 bilateral or multilateral meetings and conversations with stakeholders to understand the potential that is in the stakeholder system at this moment, as well as to get in touch with people and build energy and commitment to go into the process of development of new curricula, and also be engaged further to support the implementation of this curricula and step into the phase 2 of the dialogic change model. If you can see on the slide that phase 2 of the dialogic change model is about building and formalizing the first contacts and relationships set up in exploring and engaging phase, and it's really about clarifying common resources and common goals, do some joint plans together, and set up agreements, contracts, memorandums of understanding for further implementation. In this slide, you can see listed the most important principles for the phase 2, find the common ground, and something that can unite your core container or stakeholders in your system to act jointly, identify common clear goals, and plan the future or set up some next steps plans for the stakeholder system, and also prepare structures that are flexible enough but still make people responsible about the obligation that they take or commitments they take in this process, and create expert groups or work groups or task forces that will be further engaged into the implementation. And something that I would especially stress is that this is on one side, it is a transition phase from this initial contacts and initial container building to implementation of concrete projects, but the most valuable and most important that in this phase 2, we have to try to keep the energy that was built during this people-to-people contacts in the engagement phase, and keep in mind that the goals and vision for the common future should be really touching people's emotions as well as their real needs, and also not only speak to them as professionals or representatives of certain institutions, but also as people who are living in certain contexts and in particular state of society. And in my case, about the development of the training curricula, on the picture you can see the meeting. We had 4 days meeting using a future search meeting format that brings the whole system in one room during quite a limited time period. Here in this meeting, we had 6 stakeholders groups that were related to the development of youth policy or either civic education or informal education in Ukraine, and that were experts in non-formal civic education, professors, academics, youth leaders, ministry people, youth workers or social work experts who are and specialists who are in particular in touch with young people in different regions of Ukraine, NGOs and local experts in youth policy that will be then responsible for implementation of this new training curricular. And this meeting was extremely intense in terms that during a short period of time, 4 days, we had to go through the whole phase 2, and we've analyzed resources, especially human resources and expertise that is in our stakeholder system. We envisioned scenarios of what impact can this course have on our society, and this was this emotional part of this work where people could play certain roles and use some creative exercises. We developed structure for this course with concrete sections that should be covered, and also developed very technical terms of references and agreed about contributions of different stakeholders they can suggest into the further development of this course.
Just a short example also from my project in vocational integration of internally displaced peoples. Yeah, as I said, we created a network of multi-stakeholder partnerships, and in order to create this network, we were working together as cooperation partner with GIZ, and we organized a workshop series. And it started last year in December, and we had several interventions in January, in April, and now in July, coming soon next week. And the overall objective of this workshop series is to build a collaboration and innovation network that during the course of the workshop series will generate innovative project ideas to address the primary goal of increasing the employability of IDPs and people who suffered from the conflict. And of course, the long-term goals are to create collaboration culture and continuously growing sustainability network that is moving toward implementation of the SDGs. And of course, as Maryana said, it is really important to bring this wholeness picture, which is maybe too big for some people to understand, because it's not the most important at this current situation, because you have completely other issues and problems you need to take care of. It is always very important to create this emotionally compelling goal where people really understand that their steps are contributing to the bigger goals. And we try to create this joint vision for change by introducing prototyping, for example, and testing the vision through role plays. Maryana also said that they tried something similar, and it was very interesting that people had to, when people had the chance to jump into other roles and see their challenges from different perspectives and points of views, that their project ideas really changed. So the people understood that actually the focus they had was actually maybe not the most important, or maybe needed to have a slight change to adapt a bit to the real needs, and because they were in a different position maybe and didn't see it from another perspective. And it was really interesting to see how this one task, one exercise helped them to really understand, to create much higher engagement and commitment to the common goal.
And if you don't mind, I will just shortly jump in. If you remember this 3D spiral of DCM, here's also a good moment to remind it about this, because some working groups, when identified that there are some labs of understanding either final beneficiaries or other stakeholders in their stakeholder system, they identified they need to go back into phase 1 and do another round of context analysis and understanding what other stakeholders are already doing on the particular small piece of this vocational education training for internally displaced people in Ukraine.
Exactly what the spiral is about. Thank you, Maryana. Okay, going into phase 3 and implementing and evaluating, the core aspects here, or very important steps, are to ensure the transparency and communication, to create results, and to celebrate success. This is mostly a part where people just go over it and completely forget about, but to really keep this commitment through the different stakeholders, throughout the different stakeholders. It's also very important to celebrate success, and the celebration might look different, but to acknowledge what people invested in time, in resources, in manpower, woman power. This is a very important step where people mostly forget about. And to establish learning mechanisms. And sorry, yeah, thanks. Remind me to switch. And here it is very, as I said, to ensure transparency and communication, to really play with open cards and to not hide or to not have hidden agendas, because this is something that is really not helping you in reaching the common goal. And to create results and celebrate success and establish learning mechanism. And here in the picture you see this is a round table, a real round table of a group from Kharkiv of the of the project in increasing the vocational integration. And these people, they stepped into a wider container, so they increased their stakeholder system. And in the beginning, there were only 6 people who started with the project, and now they engaged much more people. And this is only just one picture of their wider stakeholder system now. And now they are already in conversation with the ministry, with people from the media, with people from the educational sector and private sector, to really create a wider system and people who really understand what they are talking about. And this is how systems change is working. You start with the first small group, and then you start with several other small groups and explaining the situation, and then create this trust. And this is like small phase 1 creations, where then come together in phase 2, phase 3. And this is an example of phase 3, where all the small seeds of phase 1 are coming together and really creating this bigger trust relationship, and now working together very closely. And I want to give you an example of what is establishing or established learning mechanism look like. Again, a picture from the process architecture of the project in Ukraine in vocational integration. You see that there is a multi-stakeholder or multi-actor partnership dialogue platform. This is actually the idea of learning mechanism. It might look completely different. It might be also a digital version of online or like a learning platform. But the idea behind is that you have an ongoing exchange and that the stakeholder can learn from each other, create a network and widen up their network, and maybe also give mutual support within this network, because people in this area, in this system, who are already working with these issues, mostly with the same issues, have also the same the same issues, and maybe can support your idea because they already have experiences in creating steps in this area. And it's about capacity building through knowledge which they can exchange mutually.
The last phase of the dialogic change model is called developing further, replicating, or institutionalizing, and it's mainly focused on scaling up your current project, but also it has some other possibilities of developing and using the results you gained on the previous phases. The parts of this phase are either building next level containers, so expanding your core initiative group and engaging other stakeholders in your system, create management structures to sustain your project or your initiative, or establish governance and learning systems for replicating or institutionalizing your work. And how this can look like, for example, in another project in Ukraine, when I was working with community groups, we had a project in a community. We had a project steering group as it consisted from community representatives from different sectors, local self-governance sector, state authorities that are represented in this community, NGO people, people from education sector and private sector. So this was our project steering group that had a very concrete technical task to identify what local initiatives should be funded in this community from the budget of our project. But the process of interacting between each other and doing this very concrete task together was so effective that after we went away from this community with our project, they decided to institutionalize this experience and to set up formal structure, community development steering group that had to deal with strategic community development issues, and it was created by the decree of local self-governance and local municipality, so that they can legally act together using this experience gained in our process. And yeah, the important principles of phase 4 are building next level container, and here on this picture you can see how this process and process design can look like, from your initial container to broader container and to whole stakeholder system, creating wider effect and impact, creating management structures, and establish governance and learning systems.
I want to stress one point that Maryana already mentioned. The special thing about the dialogic change model is that it's not linear. And this is sometimes very difficult to understand. And then it's an iterative learning process where you think about all the phases simultaneously. So it doesn't mean that you went through phase 1, it's done, you give him a check and go through phase 2, again a check, and then phase 3. It's not how it works. It's not linear. It's something that you need to think about in 3D. And as I said, you need to first start with phase 1 and creating very strong trust relationships. And then if you think that this is strong enough, you can go further in phase 1. If you have the feeling the core group is not yet strong enough, then you need to go back again to phase 1 and to create resonance again, to create understanding again, and to see how your core container need to be maybe adopted. Maybe some people are missing, maybe there are too many people at the first moment. The best size for the core group in the beginning is between 5 and 8 people, and sometimes if you have too many people, the divisions can maybe slightly change, and you cannot directly find a common goal. So this always means you need to take care of all the phases simultaneously, and you need to have the ability and the recognition of that you sometimes need to go back and to redo the phase again to really have a strong structure and then go further and build upon again. Okay. There are some other projects we did already in the region in eastern part of Europe and in Central Asia. And for example, there was a project in Georgia about enhancing gender equality with the gender theme group chaired by the UN Women in Tbilisi in Georgia. Another project was in the Central Asian Countries Initiative for Land Management. It was a partnership launched to combat land degradation in Central Asia, including the countries Kazakhstan, Kyrgyz Republic, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan. And another project which took place in Uzbekistan was about dialogue on regional progress and programs in Central Asia. It meant that strengthening the collaboration for transboundary matters such as trade, health, water, environment, and migration. So just to give you an overview that we are not only working in Ukraine, but also in several countries in Central Asia and Eastern Europe. And if you think we might support you in your change initiative, please come up. You will see our email addresses and also can directly contact through the chat maybe. If you need or you see the need in support, please reach out. We are doing capacity building in dialogue and transparent dialogue and collaboration, and also doing process support. So it's not that we are doing the capacity building and then leaving, but if you think you need more support in the process development, we are always there, and just reach out to us. So you're very welcome to reach out to us. And there's another possibility also to gain capacities. We will have an upcoming course in 2018, so this year, from the 15th until 18th of October in Kiev, here in Ukraine. This is an open course where everybody can participate, and it's a very, very practical approach. We are working here again with the Dialogic Change Model, what we just explained to you. This is in this course, it is the core methodology, and you have the chance to, for example, bring in your team. You're working on your change initiative or your project, for example, and you will get input from our side, theoretical input, but also directly tasks and exercise to really bring your change initiative or project or challenge you're facing directly into this course and work at this current moment at your challenges. So it's really practical. It's just an investment of 4 days, which might open up the doors for the next 4 months. So think about that. Maybe if you're living in the area of Eastern Europe, it's not about only people in Ukraine or Kiev, it's also about people who are maybe Belarus, Poland, or other areas in Eastern Europe. You're very welcome. And there are also some further courses on stakeholder collaboration. The one is from the 3rd until the 6th in September in Amman, in Jordan, with my colleague Elizabeth. And from the 13th until 16th of November in Potsdam, in Germany. And of course, at the same time, 13th until 16th November in Cape Town, South Africa. So you see, we are everywhere because we really, really want to increase the impact of sustainable development goals and to really help people to create the further steps to implement SDGs, and especially SDG 17, because we believe in the sustainable transformation of large systems through collaboration.
I would just add a few words about the course. Alina already said this, but really important to emphasize that the whole work in the course will be done through work with participants' cases. So it's really not only a theoretical course about the dialogic change model, but also a practical course based on real-life cases that you can bring into the course. And also something very important that we are going to stress on is suggestions or our input about some practical tools you can use at each stage of each phase of the dialogic change model to enhance your collaboration within your stakeholder system.
A big luggage, an empty big luggage to carry all these tools back home. Yeah, and one other thing which is really important for me and maybe surprises Maryana because we didn't talk about it in advance is that as I said in the very beginning, Maryana is our first CLI Associate in Ukraine, and we are very happy because this is, as I just said, our bigger goal is to increase the possibilities to implement the SDGs and the SDG 17. And the idea is to create collaboration academies throughout the whole world, actually. So this is our biggest vision. And Maryana is supporting us as a CLI Associate in Ukraine and creating the first steps to establish here a collaboration academy in Ukraine, in Kiev. And we are very happy to work with you together here in Ukraine. And of course, some obligatory information. You can, of course, connect with us on social media and part of our like-minded community. We are always searching for people who are thinking the same way or try to get in contact with us to work with us and assess interesting discussions and latest research and exchange with other professionals and our collective leadership institute facilitators. You can connect via Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. And of course, please visit our website, collectiveleadership.com. Collectiveleadership.com, I'm sorry. And you can read about our approaches, our methodologies, about our work we already did and or we are during or where we are in the process now currently. So please visit our website and get in contact with us. And here's already our last slide. We say thank you very much that you were with us during the whole session. We are very happy that nobody jumped off. And so, yeah, as you see, my name is Alina Gruen, Maryana Zaviyska, and you can, of course, always reach out to Martin Firko. You see the email addresses and also the general email addresses of the offices in Cape Town and in Potsdam.
You're very welcome to ask your questions in the chat window. Martin has already started to facilitate this process. If you have any questions right now, you can write them down in the chat. If you will come up with other questions, probably a little bit later, so you can reach out using this contact or social media connection.
Okay. 4 minutes for the questions to type them down. Gives us a possibility to drink some water. Okay. Maybe Martin can give us an overview if there may be some questions which we didn't see until now. Martin? Can you hear us?
I'm in. No, I think you did a great job. If there are no questions, it must have been understandable. So far, there were no questions, neither during the chat nor afterwards. So I can say maybe we close the session soon. If there are any questions coming up, they all have your email addresses. And you will also all definitely get a recording of this webinar. So all who participated today or who registered and could not make it. So yeah, we're looking forward to work with you.
Okay. Thank you, Martin, for your input. And okay, we say again, thank you. Oh, is there a question arising? Okay, no questions. Okay, again, thank you very much. Have a good day and enjoy the weekend. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.